Alrighty, everyone, let's take a look at our two-game NHL Draftkings slate for tonight. We got Florida and Boston. We got Dallas and Colorado. Starting off with our goalies, Bobrovsky's the only one we have as a probable. I'm assuming we're getting Swayman, Ottinger, and Georgiev, but I have not seen anything confirming those three yet. If something does change, I'll update the spreadsheet here and see how that affects the targetability, but I would be surprised if any of those guys aren't starting tonight. Speaking of targetability rating, Dallas comes in with the top targetability on the slate with 22.4, and then we have the other three really, really close together. Less than 1 point separate Florida, Boston, and Colorado. Boston is technically second with a targetability of 16.84, then Florida at 16.19, and Colorado at 15.97. Boston comes in second because Bobrovsky has not been good in the playoffs. His save percentage in the playoffs is .896, second worst on the slate behind Georgiev. But Boston cannot generate any shots on net. In fact, in this series, they're averaging 21 shots on goal, like 21.3 a game. Such a small number. Florida's just the better team. The only thing keeping Boston in it is Jeremy Swayman and his mostly ungodly performances. He had a couple duds in the Florida series, but even with that, he's still sitting at a .933 save percentage and a .216 goals against average, both best on the slate. He's been incredible, and he is the only reason Boston wins any game. It's the goaltending difference between Bobrovsky and Swayman. Florida is clearly superior everywhere else on the ice. So Dallas comes in with the highest targetability. They're on the road, which means Dallas 2 is the first line I'm going to look at. I was waiting for morning skate so we could see what lines they were running with in Dallas. They've been kind of shuffling things up pretty regularly. I was also waiting to find out about Rupe Hintz. Hintz is going to be out again. So that top line is going to be Ben, Johnston, and Stankoven. And the second line, the one that we care most about for tonight, so they can avoid whatever Colorado's top defensive line is going to be Robertson, Duchesne, and Pavelski. Robertson and Pavelski also have power play 1 correlation. Pavelski, after doing nothing, has started to put some points on the board, which is really nice to see because I don't think he'd record. Maybe he had an assist in the playoffs in the first round, in the first couple games in this series. But nice to see him starting to, and I want to say regain the form because he's old, but play more like he did in the regular season at least. So we can get Robertson and Pavelski with the power play 1 correlation, line 2 correlation. You can use Duchesne to get a full line 2 stack, or you can use anybody from power play 1, which joining Pavelski and Robertson, we have Johnston and Ben, who are skating on line 1, and Heiskanen, who's obviously their top defenseman and plays on the top D pairing. You can go power play 1 stacks. You can go line 2 stacks. You can play as many Dallas skaters as you'd like. That's one of my notes down here. The other 3 teams all have much bigger hurdles as far as producing fantasy points for you. Dallas is in the best spot going against not a super strong defensive team in Colorado. They're not terrible. And probably the worst goalie still remaining in the playoffs in Georgiev, who has 1 game in this series with Dallas where he's had a save percentage above .900. Everything else has been below .900, and Dallas has scored 3 or more goals in every game against Colorado. So Dallas 2 is a really nice target and somewhere that I'm looking tonight. And then after that, you can kind of mix and match from Florida, Colorado, and Boston. If you're going Florida, I like Florida line 2. And since Colorado and Boston are home, you can play those top lines. I have no interest in Boston at all. Again, not at all. I have no interest in Boston outside of maybe Jeremy Swayman or one of the cheap defensemen like Carlo or Witherspoon. I don't have any interest in Boston's power play lines or Boston skaters. As I mentioned before, they're not putting pucks on net. They're largely being outplayed. I don't really want to put any money behind a Boston stack. let's talk a little bit about the goalie situation for tonight. So goalies have all been priced up for the playoffs lately, even on nights where we have a fairly high chance of a particular team winning. Even the opposing goalie is like 7,600 rather than 7K or 7,200 that we might get in the regular season or more lopsided series. And tonight, our cheapest goalie is Jake Ottinger, and he's 7.8K. It's not exactly salary saving, not a whole lot of value in that range. And then Swayman's the most expensive at 8,400. It's tough to play Swayman, even though he does have the highest upside. He also has the highest risk. And being the most expensive goalie does make that kind of hard to swallow. So I have a couple of ideas for goal tonight. So I'm thinking if I have 8,400 and I want to play with the Boston wins desperation game at home narrative, Swayman's obviously in play. If you think Boston wins, play Jeremy Swayman. If he gets the win, has the best chance by far of hitting the 35 save bonus. He could have 40 plus saves, allow 1 or 2 goals, get the win. And if you have Swayman, you're likely to cash at that point. So if you think Boston wins, play Jeremy Swayman. The next guy that I'm interested in is Jake Ottinger. He has slightly lower upside than Swayman and slightly less risk than Swayman since he has a better team around him, more run support, if you will. But Colorado's a good offense, and they can put pucks on net too. So Ottinger is a slightly less risky Swayman, and he also comes in at $600 cheaper than Swayman, which is nice. I have no interest in playing Bobrovsky or Georgiev. Bobrovsky hasn't been great, doesn't face any shots. In my strategy notes here, his best game this series is 12, I think it was 12.3 fantasy points at 8,200. I don't know how you can say you want a goalie for over 8K who has a ceiling of 12 fantasy points. And then in a similar vein, we have Georgiev. His best game is like 11 points, and he's 8K. So I don't foresee myself playing either of those two guys. It's Swayman or Ottinger if I want a starting goalie. However, I think there is a world where you can play one of these third or fourth string goalies that are 6,500. I think Colorado has 2 on the slate at 6,500 that are going to get you a guaranteed 0, but you can use that $1,500 and pay up for your more expensive skaters. Now, if you do this, if you want to go with the literally punt goalie, take a 0 for sure, but save that extra salary, I think what you're going to want to stack Colorado 1. Because the only way I see this working is if Colorado wins, but Georgiev has one of his single-digit win games, so Dallas scores. And then, of course, Florida wins, and Boston continues to be unable to put pucks on net. Bobrovsky has one of his 9 points in a win game. So if you're going with the 6,500 goalie punt, you're going to go kind of in the scenario that Florida and Colorado win. And if Colorado wins at home, you're likely going to want McKinnon, Makar, and then kind of you can use some of those value guys like Drew in if you want. He's top line, top power play line. But you're going to want to stack Colorado. Use that salary on Nathan McKinnon, who's over 10K, and Makar, who I think is around 8K. That's kind of the 3 different goalie approaches. Swayman if you think Boston wins. Ottinger, the cheapest starting goalie that has upside. Or drop all the way down, punt with one of those guys that are 6,500 that aren't going to play, guaranteed 0, and hope that your line stacks go off. All right, any of the notes here in the strategy section? No, that pretty much does it for that part. Dallas is the top option. Not interested in Boston. Florida 2, Colorado 1, also good. And then for cheap shot blocking defensemen, at this point in the series, we're in game 6s. It's a lot of the same guys. Their prices have fluctuated by a few hundred. Some guys performing better lately, but on Boston, Brandon Carlo and Parker Wotherspoon are still good prices. They've both been playing pretty well. I like either of those guys. And they're probably the only 2 guys I'm considering playing for Boston outside of Swayman. Colorado, Josh Manson's had a really good series. Samuel Girard has been fine at 3,400 in a decent spot. In fact, let's go check Manson and Girard again. These are in their last 5. Manson has 22 shots plus blocks and 2 assists. That's really good production. Girard has 18 shots plus blocks and 2 assists. Those guys are totally fine, totally viable at 3,400 for Girard, 3,800 for Manson. I like either of those guys. And Chris Tanev is the usual suspect. All he's going to do is block shots, but he's going to do it well. He's getting up there a little bit at 4,100, but I can't have a shot blocking section and not mention Chris Tanev. That's really all he brings to the table. So if you have 4,100 and you're looking for a shot blocker that's probably the most likely to hit the blocks bonus of anybody on the slate, Chris Tanev fits that bill. And I just added a couple notes here, some cheap guys that make good one-offs, or you can combine them with some of your stacks, especially Drew In at 4,100 playing on the top line with McKinnon and Lehkonen and getting power play 1 minutes. He's a really nice play. Tyler Seguin's 4,900. Typically he skates on line 3. I think that's where they had him at morning skate. Let's double check that though. Tyler Seguin, line 3, but he still has 16 shots over the last 5 games, 4 points in the last 5 games. Gets power play 2 minutes. Gets power play 2 minutes. He's fine as a one-off. I think he's 4,900 now. And again, Dallas is the best team to target tonight. And then Evan Rodriguez on Florida 3. He's 4K. He has, let's see how many shots he has in his last 5. Rodriguez has 14 shots and 4 points in his last 5 games at 4K on a good Florida team. I'm fine with that as a one-off. Or if you want to do a Florida 3 stack to save a little bit of money, that's totally fine too. Okay, quick recap for tonight. Dallas is in the best spot. And then for me, it's Florida and Colorado kind of tied. No interest in Boston. So, of course, that means Boston 1 will finally have a good game. As for goalie, the only 2 starters I'm considering are Swayman and Ottinger. And then if I want to get crazy, I'm going to play one of the 6,500 goalies to stack. Probably game stack Colorado-Dallas would be the way I see that playing out if that strategy is going to hit. And then for shot blocking defensemen, I think Carlo and Manson are probably my 2 favorite. If I had to pick 2 of these guys for my 2 defensemen on DraftKings, but all 5 are playable. It just kind of depends on what salary you have left. And then plug in whoever fits. And then if you need some one-offs to have a chance to put some points on the board, it's Drew In at 4,100, Seguin at 4,900, or Evan Rodriguez at 4K. Okay, this spreadsheet is linked down in the description down below. If we get updates on starting goalies, anything weird happens, I will edit the spreadsheet and I'll put an update on the video to let you know that things have changed that we need to be aware of. If there's anything you all want to see, anything you think I could do to help you, any other stats or projections would make it easier for you to build your fantasy lineups, just let me know. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Thanks to everybody who's been liking and commenting and subscribing. It's been really fun, and hopefully it's helping you all out, and good luck tonight.